When I saw my nanny sleeping on the floor, I never expected her sacrifice would change everything. I will never forget the way my heart raced, a wild drumbeat echoing in my chest. The room felt charged, electric with an unspoken urgency. There she was, sprawled on the cold, hard tiles, surrounded by a haze of dust dancing in the slanting sunlight. Her frail body seemed smaller than I remembered, and a tightening in my throat made it hard to breathe. I tiptoed closer, my hands trembling, fingers brushing against the rough wood of the doorway. The smell of old coffee hung heavy in the air, mixing with the faint scent of lavender from her favorite pillow. I could hear the faintest sigh escape her lips, a reminder that beneath her stillness lay a battle I knew nothing of. Nanny had always been my rock, the one who turned the mundane into magic. I thought back to the stories she told, her rich, lilting laughter mixing seamlessly with the clinking of her ceramic teacups. Our time together felt like a cozy blanket, as warm and comforting as her hugs. But now, looking at her like this, I felt a knot of dread unfurling in my stomach. The kitchen was a mess, unlike her usual orderliness. Flour dusted across the countertop like a ghost of last night's baking, the sink piled high with unwashed dishes, an overturned box of tea bags spilling their contents like secrets scattered on the floor. A silent testament to the chaos that had crept into her life. I wanted to shake her awake, to pull her from whatever dream was holding her captive, but part of me feared what I might uncover. Then there was that strange noise, a faint, almost imperceptible sound that made the hairs on my arms stand on end. I couldn't tell if it was the wind creeping through the cracks in the window or something more sinister. My heart quickened, the unsettling rhythm thumping in my ears. What was happening to her? Was this just exhaustion, or was it something far worse? I stepped back, my pulse racing as I glanced around, half expecting someone to leap from the shadows. The walls felt like they were closing in, thick with suspense. Outside, the world continued its trivial chatter, people passing by oblivious to the drama unfolding inside. Nanny, I whispered, but nothing changed. Would she ever wake up? And then I noticed something glinting on the floor next to her. A small, silver locket, half buried in a dust bunny. My breath caught in my throat. I knew it well. It was the same locket she had worn every day for as long as I could remember. That meant something important. It had to. Why was it here? Why was she not wearing it? I felt a chill creep down my spine as I knelt, reaching out, my fingers brushing against the cold metal. What had happened? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. I held the locket in my palm, feeling its weight press against my skin like a whisper from the past. For a moment, the world around me faded, and all that existed was this token of Nanny's history, a shiny remnant of her youth. The clasp was slightly askew, and I could see the edges of her delicate fingers in my mind, the way she would touch it gently whenever she spoke of her late husband, the guy who knew how to bring the world to life with his stories. Nanny, please wake up, I pleaded again, the words hitching in my throat. I wanted to shake her, to rouse her from whatever slumber had captured her spirit, but I also feared what the act would reveal. As I brushed my thumb over the locket's smooth surface, a flicker of movement caught my eye. I turned sharply, instinctively clutching the locket tighter. At the door stood Mr. Thompson, our neighbor, his expression a mix of concern and curiosity. "Hey there, kiddo," he said softly, his voice carrying the weight of years. "Is everything alright?" I swallowed, hoping my fear didn't spill out from my eyes. "Nanny, she's on the floor." Mr. Thompson stepped closer, his sturdy frame standing as a shield against my escalating panic. Let's see what we can do, okay? He knelt beside Nanny and gently rolled her onto her side, checking for signs of life. I held my breath, a lump constricting my throat. What if something was seriously wrong? What if this moment changed everything? She's just asleep, he said, his voice a steady anchor. But we need to get her up and checked out. I believed him, but only partially. There was something in his tone that hinted at the unspoken fears we both shared. Nanny was aging, but she was still a force in our lives, resilient, even when the night stretched on like endless roads. Together, we helped Nanny to her feet, her frail body leaning on both of us like a fragile conspiracy. As we crossed the threshold into the living room, the sun poured through the window, a golden cascade that framed her delicate form. A moment's stillness enveloped us before the reality struck anew. I need to find her, doctor, Mr. Thompson said calmly, though I could see the worry creeping into the corners of his eyes. I nodded, tears pricking the edges of my vision. You call Aunt Miriam. She had always been the family organizer, the one who wrangled our concerns into the semblance of solutions. As I dialed her number, a sense of helplessness washed over me, mixing uneasily with determination. Nanny had taken care of me for so long, and now it was my turn to step up and support her. Aunt Miriam answered on the second ring. Her voice, usually brisk, was laced with fatigue. What's happened? Is everything okay? We found Nanny on the floor, I said, my voice cracking. Mr. Thompson is with us, but I think we need to call for help. There was a silence that felt heavy and oppressive. Well, come right over, she said finally, her voice resolving into a fierce determination that mirrored my own. As I hung up, I caught a glimpse of Mr. Thompson, talking calmly to Nanny, coaxing her to sit. His kind words seemed to wrap around her like a warm quilt. I momentarily envied him, that he could wield the magic I had always relied on Nanny to provide. Moments later, the door swung open, and Aunt Miriam rushed in, her eyes scanning the room before zeroing in on Nanny. What happened? She asked, rushing to her side, her hands already probing gently as she assessed the situation. I found her on the floor, I murmured, unsure if the weight of that statement met the gravity of the moment. Aunt Miriam nodded, her expression determined yet fraught with anxiety. Let's get her some water first. As she busily shuffled about, a faint squeeze of hope pierced through my worry, reminding me of the moments in life where unexpected kindnesses emerged amid fear and turmoil. But just as I felt the weight of despair begin to shift, a faint sound shattered the air, a notification from Nanny's phone, left buzzing on the countertop. I slipped away to check it, my hesitation mounting with each step I took. The screen lit up, revealing a name that sent shockwaves through my very core. My heart dropped as I scrolled to read the message. It was from someone I hadn't seen in years, someone whose presence and absence had shaped the very foundation of our family. Nanny, we need to talk. I've been thinking about you. And I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever had happened before this moment was about to unravel in ways I never anticipated. As the words settled over me, a cold dread knotted at my stomach. What would this mean for us all? The sunlight seemed to dim around me, like a curtain being drawn over the day as I stared at that message. We need to talk. A chill rippled through my spine, a twist of disquiet that tasted all too familiar. I crushed the locket against my palm harder, its edges pressing into my skin like an anchor, a tether to the past. Is everything okay? Aunt Miriam's voice broke through my reverie. I turned to her, and she raised an eyebrow, sensing something heavy had crossed my mind. What's wrong? I hesitated, torn between the instinct to shield my aunt from potential pain and the urge to share the divulging news clenching my heart. Just a message for Nanny. From someone, I muttered, my voice wavering. From whom? She asked, crossing her arms, eyes narrowing slightly as she scanned my face for signs of clarity. I opened my mouth, intending to explain, but the words slipped away, faltering in the shadow of uncertainty. It was a name I hadn't spoken aloud in years except in echoes of bitter memories. It's from Mr. Collins." Aunt Miriam's face hardened, her protective instincts flaring as if they were a shield against a long-forgotten foe. "What does he want?" Dread filled the space between us. This was not just about Nanny anymore, it felt like threads from history were beginning to entwine with the present, the possibility of chaos within our fragile framework. "I don't know," I said. "But it might be important." Mr. Thompson, sensing the shift in our demeanor, cleared his throat and rose to his feet. "I think it's best if we focus on Nanny right now," he suggested, his tone firm yet gentle. "Let's see how she's doing first, and then we can deal with other matters." I nodded, but a nagging feeling gnawed at me, tugging at the corners of my thoughts. Walking back to Nanny, I felt like a tightrope walker, balancing the weight of my worries, while her frail form continued to hold the graceful spark of the person I loved most. Nanny blinked slowly, stirring from the emotional clutches of her earlier stupor, and the moment felt like a fragile bridge across an abyss. The concern in her gaze as she focused on Aunt Miriam cut through me like ice. "What's going on, dear?" she whispered, her voice shaky but laced with warmth that felt like home. I stepped closer, allowing the chaos around us to fade into a soft whisper. "It's okay, Nanny. We're all here." Yet, my heart clenched. She deserved to hear the comforting truth, not the tangled web of old grudges waiting at the door. While Aunt Miriam helped Nanny sip the water, I caught Mr. Thompson looking at me with a kind understanding, as if sensing an emotional tempest brewing beneath my calm facade. I appreciated the depth of his empathy but ached to protect Nanny from the realities that might shatter her spirit. Old ghosts have a way of knowing when to surface. As the minutes turned into hours, the anxiety in the room flared and ebbed. Nanny had regained her strength, but the undercurrent of tension persisted. Each chime of the clock felt like a countdown, and I knew that the longer I put off addressing the message, the larger it would loom over us. "Nanny, I found something." "A message from Mr. Collins," I finally stammered, my throat dry as I spoke the name that lingered between us like a knife's edge. Nanny's eyes widened, shock etched into her features. "What does he want?" Her voice trembled, and I noticed Aunt Miriam's protective posture stiffen, instinctively leaning in closer to Nanny. "He wants to talk," I replied, feeling the gravity of my own words like stones dropped in water radiating outward. He hasn't been in touch for a long time." There was a pause, the electric tension thrumming in the air. Nanny's gaze dropped, her silence weighing heavily as the specter of the past rose, threatening to engulf us. "After everything," she murmured. "Why now?" I wanted to comfort her, to reassure her that she didn't have to face this alone, but my heart raced with an inkling that the past often lay dormant only to erupt at the worst moments. Aunt Miriam attempted to smooth the situation. "You don't have to respond, Nanny. You have the choice. He doesn't have any hold over you anymore." "You don't understand," Nanny replied quietly, her voice barely above a whisper but carrying the force of a freight train. "There's too much history between us. Too much pain." The atmosphere pulsated around us, and I felt trapped in a web of emotions we had tried to navigate for so many years. Suddenly, Nanny closed her eyes, and I could feel the waves coming, a storm brewing behind her seemingly calm surface. As my pulse raced, I glanced down at the locket, so small, so innocuous, yet heavy with memories and the weight of sacrifices unspoken. Was holding on to the past worth all this pain? What if Mr. Collins came back demanding not just to talk but to reopen every wound that had ever scarred us? Before I could voice my fears, my phone buzzed again, cutting through the tension like a knife. It was another message from the very person we were all avoiding, each word a chilling ripple expanding across our lives. "I know about everything. We need to discuss it all. I'm coming." The anticipation in the room shifted, an electric charge running through our core. I looked up from my phone just in time to see Nanny's expression morph, a mixture of fear and something much darker. "What do you mean?" I whispered, but deep down, I sensed the truth that would challenge every bit of hope I had left for our family, and just like that, in that cozy, sunlit room, everything began to unravel. Nanny's eyes went wide, a storm brewing within them as she absorbed the meaning behind my words. The words I know about everything echoed in my mind like an ominous clock ticking down to an inevitable confrontation. I felt a chill sweep through the room, an unsettling electricity settling in the air. Aunt Miriam clenched Nanny's hand tighter, as if summoning strength from an ancient bond woven in love and shared grief. No, Nanny breathed out, as if denying the very possibility that someone could hold our past against us again. He wouldn't dare. Mr. Thompson's steady presence was a small comfort, but even he seemed caught off guard by the sudden shift in the atmosphere. Perhaps we should consider, he started, but the worry etched across Nanny's face told me this was no simple problem that could be resolved with reasoning. Consider what? I interjected, ignoring him. Shutting this whole thing down. You know that's not how it works with people like him. Running away never protects the ones you love. My voice trembled, and the truth of my words hung heavily in the silence. A part of me knew I had taken a step too far, yet I couldn't bear being merely a spectator while a spectre returned to haunt us all yet again. And Nanny's voice was barely a whisper. Her hand trembled softly in Aunt Miriam's grip, each pulse of her heartbeat echoing the memories lurking just beneath her skin. Whatever has to be done before she could finish, the door creaked open. Startled, we turned our gazes to find Jenna standing in the doorway, the sun bathing her in a warm glow that cut through the tension. In her hands, she held a small bouquet of wildflowers. Yellow and purple danced together in a fragile burst of color against the backdrop of our monochrome fears. I thought you might like something cheerful, she said, her face lighting up, radiating warmth that felt like a balm to our frayed nerves. Jenna stepped into the room and offered the flowers to Nanny, her eyes wide and honest. They reminded me of those sunny afternoons we spent together, picking flowers in the garden. In that moment, it was as if the world beyond the door, the chaos, the fears, the looming spectre faded softly into the background. Nanny's face softened, a flicker of gratitude sweeping away some of the shadows hiding deep within her chest. Thank you, dear, she said, her voice trembling not with pain, but with a glimmer of life as she touched the soft petals. They're beautiful. I watched as Nanny lifted the flowers close to her heart, a reminder of joy igniting the flicker of hope within that moment. Those small acts of kindness sparkled like sunlit rays in an otherwise troubled sky, reminding us that light still existed even in the darkest of times. But as the sun shifted, casting elongated shadows across the floor, a sharp reminder of our grim reality crept back in. The weight of Mr. Collins' impending return pressed heavily at the edges of my thoughts, intertwining with the delicate beauty Jenna had offered. Jenna, I said, my thoughts racing. Have you ever heard anything about Mr. Collins coming back to town? Her cheerful demeanor shifted slightly, unsure. I heard whispers. People talk, you know. But nothing concrete. Just rumors. The mystery surrounding him enveloped the room, tension tightening around us like a noose. Just as I was about to explore this further, Nanny coughed softly, drawing the energy back to her presence. I can't bear this weight anymore, she said, the tremor in her voice betraying her underlying strength. It's time for the truth to come out. Before I could respond, the light drifting through the window flickered, my heartbeat sinking with a sudden surge of dread. The door rattled slightly, a cautious knock followed, each rap echoing ominously in the silence. My heart raced. Who could it be? My mind raced to troubling possibilities. Had Mr. Collins already bypassed our emotional barricades to intrude upon our sanctuary? Nanny's grip on the bouquet tightened, and I could see the way her eyes flashed with both determination and fear. Aunt Miriam braced herself, a fortress of protection planted firmly between Nanny and the encroaching shadows. The knock persisted, transforming into a pounding heart-beaten amplification of every emotion running rapidly beneath our skin. It's him, I whispered, my throat constricting. We can't let him in. But as the door creaked open, my breath hitched. What stood before us would change everything in ways I had never anticipated. An unfamiliar face emerged, a man whose presence surged with an unexpected familiarity, a ghost from a different chapter of our Levisa brother to the one we had lost long ago. His haunted eyes met mine, and I felt remnant of hope intertwined with the chaos of every torn memory. "I'm here to talk," he said, his voice steady yet laced with unuttered apologies. "And it's important. You need to know why he's back." As the door swung wide, time itself seemed to bend, clutching at the heart of our delicate family, ready to unravel or, perhaps, finally navigate into the light. But in that moment, a deep-rooted dread cloud within met Johnny hadn't reached the surface just yet. Everything is about to change, I thought, as shadows loomed closer and confessions hung in the balance, waiting to break free. The air thickened with uncertainty as our world shifted beneath the weight of that sudden revelation. Nanny's frail form shrunk behind the bouquet of wildflowers, her expression caught between fear and a strange resolve. I felt a chill crawl up my spine as I absorbed the stranger's words. "Why now? Why him? Who are you?" I demanded, my voice tinged with a mix of defiance and desperation, a protest rising in my chest. The man took a tentative step forward, his eyes darting between us, searching for recognition. "I know you don't remember me well, but I'm Alex, your brother." His voice quivered but held a note of insistence, as if he had rehearsed this moment multiple times yet struggled under the enormity of the truth. A collective gasp escaped from Nanny and Aunt Miriam, the very air seeming to pulse around us with disbelief. I stared, searching those familiar features for any inkling of the bond we had long presumed shattered. No, Nanny's voice was a threadbare whisper as she clutched the wildflowers tighter, her knuckles blanched against the intensity of the moment. "You can't possibly bet this isn't true. It is," he pressed, desperation in his tone. "I was lost, but I promise you I'm here to help. We need to confront our past before he comes for us." That name, he struck like an electric current through the room. Mr. Collins. The loneliness that had seeped into our lives was not just a sorrow, it had become a weighty specter lying just out of view, a tumultuous storm growing more furious behind the horizon of our history. "I don't understand," I whispered, my heart racing unsteadily beneath the weight of discovery. "Why now? Why should we trust you?" Alex ran a hand through his disheveled hair, the action imbued with lifelong burdens aching to escape. "Because I know what he's done. I know what he's capable of." His voice trembled, laden with remorse. "And I can't let him hurt you again. Please." The desperation dripped from his words, saturating the stale air. Hope flickered dimly in my chest, struggling against a maelstrom of doubt. Aunt Miriam stepped forward, her usual steadiness faltering. "If you're really who you say you are, then why did you vanish? Why did you leave us?" His expression darkened, shadows casting over his face. "I was young, afraid. It was easier to disappear than to confront the truth." He made sure I knew what happened to those who resisted him. A wave of sadness flooded me as I pieced together the puzzle of our broken family. The loss we had carried was thick, intruding like an unwelcome guest, suffocating our every attempt at normalcy. "But no more," Alex insisted, moving closer, a hint of urgency edging into his tone. "I've come to bring the truth home to keep you safe. We can't live in the shadows anymore." A part of me longed to reach out, to bridge the chasm of lost years, but the specter of his sudden return clinched my chest in fear. Would trust even be possible? What could he offer us that we hadn't already tried? Then, as if in retaliation against my wish for clarity, chaos erupted suddenly from an outside source. A muffled shout echoed outside, rattling the window panes. The shift was palpable. We all turned toward the sound, hearts racing. "Stay back," I warned, stepping instinctively in front of Nanny. The vivid memories of our struggle surged, washing over my images of vulnerability and strength clashing in a relentless dance. "I couldn't let this happen again, please," Alex urged, his eyes wide with urgency. "We don't have much time. If he's here, you need to know what he's doing." My heart clenched. Somehow, the confrontation I so deeply feared now felt unavoidable, a freight train barreling relentlessly down the tracks, carrying all our tribulations with it. "Answer me this," I said, my voice hardening amidst the storm brewing within. "Is he back to settle old scores? Because if he is, I won't let him near Nanny or anyone else in this family. The thud of footsteps echoed closer, winding through the hall like a serpent, threatening everything in its path. Alex met my gaze, pleading, determination swelling within those familiar eyes. You don't know the whole story. None of us do. I've learned more about him than I ever wished to, but we're running out of time. Tension thickened the air as the knock transformed into a steady percussion, each rap echoing the heartbeats of those in the room. Time flipped like a coin tossed in the air, the outcome forever uncertain. Just trust me, Alex urged, desperation creeping in. I promise I will never leave you again. And before I could respond, the door swung wide open, revealing the final coup de grace, a figure swathed in shadow, stepping forth to bring the unraveling threads of our history crashing down upon us all at once. A voice cut through the air, familiar yet laced with sinister intent. I believe you've been keeping secrets, Mr. Collins announced, his smile hollow yet menacing, sealing our fates with cold finality. And it's time to pay the price. In that moment, as blood drained from my face and fear coiled around my throat, I grappled with the reality that everything was about to shatter, and the story we thought we knew was only just beginning. The air had shifted again, thickening with dread as Mr. Collins loomed before us. The dim light caught in his eyes, reflecting a malevolence that danced like shadows against the walls. I felt the others draw closer together, our shared fear pulsing through us in a single heartbeat. What do you want? I found the courage to ask, even as my voice trembled. Mr. Collins inclined his head, his smile never reaching his eyes. Oh, simply to remind you of the consequences of disobedience. Family ties are a burden, after all, especially when they tether you to broken promises, he said, letting the words linger like smoke. A chill snaked down my spine as he took a step closer. I glanced at Alex, the brother I had just found, and felt the weight of his presence. For better or worse, he carried our family's history on his shoulders. Nanny clutched the wildflowers to her chest, her breath a shallow whisper against the growing tension. Stay back, I declared, positioning myself between Collins and the others, feeling the pulse of adrenaline surge within me. You won't hurt them again, protective, aren't we? Mr. Collins chuckled, twirling a finger through the air as if our fear only amused him. But you see, dear child, protecting them is an illusion, much like the family you thought you had. It's all too easy to tear such fragile threads. The air vibrated with unresolved emotions as I recalled evenings filled with laughter muted by the looming shadow of his presence. My heart raced with memories of Nanny's gentle embrace bolstered by layers of resilience. That same delicate strength now flickered uncertainly. Alex shifted, muscles taut, and I could feel his struggle mirrored in my own. You don't have to do this, Collins. Just walk away. We want nothing from you, he said, voice strained yet defiant. Oh, but that's where you're mistaken, Collins replied, stepping forward with deliberate slowness. You're entwined into this narrative, young man. Much like an unfortunate string caught in a snare. Your very existence represents a threat to my reign. A desperate thought crossed my mind. What about your past? It's riddled with mistakes. You think control creates safety. My words hung in the air, imploring him to reconsider. Collins paused, eyes narrowing. Control is an illusion that the weak cling to. You are weak, he sneered, his voice dripping disdain, but something shifted in that momentary crack in the facade. Weakness, I said, voice steady yet quivering with emotion. It takes strength to break free from fear and reclaim what's rightfully ours. We have the power to change this. We have each other. A glint of surprise flickered across Collins's face, replaced by disdain as he took another step closer. You think family can shield you? I know your secrets, every lie you've told yourself. The fractures in your hearts, he hissed, leaning in close enough that I could feel the oppressive weight of his breath. Stop. Nanny's voice broke through, trembling yet resolute. You took so much from us, yet you remain the one trapped in your own darkness. She stepped forward, flowers shaking in her grip. You cannot take what doesn't belong to you. I glanced at Nanny, realization blooming like a reluctant flower. Her courage forged a shield around us, flickering rays of unexpected hope intertwining with the rage boiling beneath the surface. Maybe together, just maybe, we could confront him, such bravery, Collins mocked. But courage is often met with fire. You need to understand that repercussions lurk within every choice. Panic swept through the room as I sensed what was coming. Get to safety. I shouted to Nanny and Aunt Miriam, but before they could move, I felt a piercing pain radiate through my arm. Collins had lunged, grasping my wrist tightly, an ice-cold grip that surged through me like electricity. A searing pain bloomed, and the world around me filtered to gray, the edges softening into a disorienting haze. I collapsed to my knees, gasping as a wave of weakness washed over me, shadows pulling at the corners of my vision. Do you see, child? You never shield them well enough. This is just the beginning. His voice echoed in the depths of my mind, riding like a serpent with every word uttered, venom lacing the promises head crafted. A muffled cry pulled me back, and I turned my head. Aunt Miriam was clutching Nanny, the anguish on their faces igniting a fire within me, a persistence I never thought I could muster against the overwhelming tide of despair. No! I shouted through clenched teeth, pulling on the reserves of strength I had. You will not take them from me. You will not win. Suddenly, a figure broke through from the darkened hall behind Collins, Blur, a rushing wave that collided with him. My breath hitched as recognition came crashing down. Get away from her. It was Hannah, my old friend, the very last person I ever expected to see wielding a defiance that gleamed like armor against the darkness. Collins staggered back, momentarily disoriented as the vibrant energy emanating from Hannah thrust back against the shadows that had haunted us for too long. But before I could grasp the implications, the world spun again, dark edges creeping closer like tightening vines constricting around my heart. Strong hands held me, yet I could barely comprehend the faces surrounding me as everything faded to black. A final thought ricocheted in my mind, desperate and clear: I would fight for them, for us. The confrontation was just beginning, and this time, we wouldn't back down. The world pulled itself back together in a swirl of confusion and pain as I regained consciousness. I blinked against the harsh light, a disorienting brightness that felt almost foreign. The metallic tan of anxiety hung in the air, and a hollow ache gnawed at my chest. I was lying on a cold floor, the stark reality hitting me like a wave. I struggled to sit up, my pulse racing as I took in my surroundings. Disoriented, I recognized the storied living room of our old family house, its once vibrant walls now washed in shadows. Distant voices carried, blending into an indistinct murmur beneath the weight of what had just happened. My heart sank as the last images flooded back: Collins, my friends, the darkness. No. I gasped, pushing myself up, fresh panic threatening to pull me back down. I searched the room, dread pulling in my gut. I could still feel Collins' icy grip on my wrist, the remnants of his poisonous words lingering like a bitter aftertaste. My eyes fell to the floor, and then a shudder coursed through me. Nanny was lying on the floor, her body crumpled unnaturally against the wall. The sight of her so still sent a fresh wave of terror crashing over me, my breath hitching as I scrambled towards her, ignoring the throbbing pain shooting through my limbs. Nanny! I cried, urgency dripping from my voice as panic coursed through me. Please. I reached her side, taking in her pale face and the way her chest rose and fell with shallow breaths. The wildflowers she had cherished lay scattered around her as if mourning the moment. My heart swelled with a desperate combination of love and fear. Hannah! I shouted, desperation sharpening my voice. My friend was still nearby, circling around frantically, her expression mad with worry. Help me. We need to wake her up. Hannah rushed to my side, kneeling beside Nanny and placing 2 fingers on her neck. Relief flickered through her frantic expression as she nodded. She's alive. Just unconscious. I think you knocked Collins off balance just enough to buy us time. Time for what? I said, my heart pounding erratically. What if he comes back? What if you deal with him together? She said, her voice steady despite the quiver of uncertainty beneath it. "You've got to be strong right now." A ripple of warmth passed through me at her words, grounding me even as the weight of fear tightened its grip. I glanced back at Nanny, conjuring every cherished memory of her laughter, wisdom, and the way she always seemed to light up the darkest rooms. The thought of losing that light invoked a ferocity within me, igniting a stubborn flame that I couldn't snuff out. While I held Nanny's hand, feeling the fragile warmth grasping onto life, the image of Colin started to morph into something even darker. A knot formed in my stomach as realization settled in. He wouldn't let this go easily. "Alex!" I shouted, suddenly remembering my brother. "Where's Alex?" Anna's eyes widened. "I don't know. I thought he was right behind you." Panic surged through her features, sparking my own fear anew. "We have to find him, we have to get out of here." Pushing away the anxiety, I focused on the moment. We needed a plan. "Let's get Nanny into the adjacent room. It'll be safer. We can look for Alex from there," I suggested, determination spilling from my soul like a river breaking free. With aching bodies and trepidation in every movement, we lifted Nanny between us and carried her to the nearby study. As we settled her down on the plush couch, a thud from behind us froze my movements. "Did you hear that?" I asked, heart racing anew. "Yeah," Hannah whispered, wide-eyed. We both turned, dread creeping closer. An unmistakable voice sliced through the silence like a blade. "You really thought you could hide from me?" It was Collins, emerging like a wraith from a darkened corner, his presence flooding the space with an unsettling chill. "How quaint. I see your brave efforts to cling to the last remnants of a broken family. Get away from us!" I shouted defiantly, the spark of fear igniting into a blaze. "You were wrong. No one is broken. We will not let you win." He stepped forward, an unsettling grin stretching across his face. "You think you're unified? No family can stand against their own truths. Stop talking," Hannah said sharply, her fist clenched tightly. "You haven't won. You never will." The moment hung suspended as our resolve coalesced, intertwined with the vulnerability of our surroundings. Just then, a shattering sound echoed in an explosion of glass from a nearby window. We jumped, and as a flood of adrenaline surged through my veins, I turned to see the figure of Alex standing at the entrance. "Did I miss the party?" he said, sarcasm laced with underlying urgency as shattered fragments glistened around him. His presence triggered an endless stream of relief, but it was short-lived as I noticed the shadow lurking behind him, the unmistakable essence of Colin's incredible timing. "Brother," I said, my voice lightening despite the palpable tension. "Now, let's get her to safety." Before I could finish, Collins lunged, and everything went dark once more. I felt an icy grip around my heart, suffocating hope, shrouding us in uncertainty as his laughter pierced through the shadows. The air was heavy with an oppressive silence that screamed chaos. Time felt suspended, as if the universe held its breath alongside me. My heart hammered furiously, the fear dismantling the fragile threads of bravery I had hoped to weave together. Nanny, beacon of light, was just a few feet away, her sweetness and courage dulled into an eerie stillness. In that insecure moment, Collins's presence loomed larger than life, dark and suffocating. "Collins, stop!" I cried out, my voice trembling but alive with a stubborn defiance. "You can't take us down. You won't tear us apart." He paused, cocking his head as if amused by my bravery. "Oh, but that's exactly what I intend to do," he breathed, his words dripping with malice. "You see, the only thing holding you together is your naive love for each other. Love, dear child, is nothing but a thread. And all threads can be cut." Just as I braced for the impact of his words, Alex surged forward, his eyes ablaze with fierce determination. "Get away from my sister," he roared, redirecting the pulse of adrenaline into a tangible force. In the split second that followed, our worlds collided as he collided into Collins's brutal exchange of fists and force that sent shockwaves through the room. Hannah and I exchanged a razor-thin look of sinker fierce urge to act united. "Nanny, stay with us," I whispered, squeezing her hand tightly, willing the warmth beneath my fingers to become a conduit of strength. Time blurred as my brother grappled with the darkness personified, the chaotic dance of struggle entwining both hope and fear into an ephemeral rhythm. Collins twisted away, retaliating with a wild swing. I felt my insides tighten. It was surreal to witness the battle while my heart longed to protect those I loved. As Collins stumbled, a split second opened before me, and I seized the moment, bolting to the window and twisting the latch. The night outside was alive with the cacophony of oncoming sirens. My heart sank knowing any help would arrive too late. Would Nanny wait for them? Would I be too late? In that instance, a flicker of resilience surged within me. Memories flooded my mind. Nanny's bedtime stories where love triumphed over darkness, her laughter reverberating through crumbling walls. She raised us to be brave, not scared. I murmured, launching my voice towards the fray before me. "I'll fight you, Collins. I won't let you dictate our fate." With renewed resolve, I reclaimed my voice as a weapon against despair. Just as I turned to rejoin the fray, the horrific sound of glass splintering echoed into my thoughts as another window shattered. New dread unfurled within me, mingling with the palpable tension. "Alex, watch out!" I screamed as I caught a glimpse of Collins's arm winding back for another blow. The chaotic dance of shadows roared in crescendo as he charged once more. With moments to spare, Hannah leaped in, pushing Alex aside while a fresh wave of adrenaline coursed through her veins. "You want to play games?" She was fierce, a tempest unleashed. "Let's see how you fare against our family's love." Collins' twisted face fell momentarily at her unexpected intensity. If only I could channel that kindling into a blazing fire. Just then, our surroundings erupted with a deafening cacophony. A frantic knock echoed against the door, relentless and loud. "Alex. It's the police. Open up." The sound cut through the fray, momentarily grounding my fevered thoughts. Would they stop Collins, or would he slip away into the shadows? "Open the door." The urgency in the officer's tone jolted us clear. "They could help us," I yelled, a wild idea taking root. "We can call for backup. If we can just hold him off." "That's right," Anna shouted. "Alex, buy us time." Alex nodded, determination etched across his face. "We're not giving up, none of us." With a final push, I turned away from the fear, willing the threads of love woven through our family to resonate as we all fought back. Before I could truly process it, Collins surged forward again, an unrelenting force determined to snuff out our flicker of hope. As he lunged, I caught a glimpse of the window. By my side, shattered but still holding onto the frame. In a rush of instinct, I reached for the nearest object, a shattered shard of glass, my mind in rebellion as I summoned every ounce of courage. This wasn't just my life at stake, this was for Nanny, Alex, Hannah. "Stop!" I yelled, driven by an unspeakable power surging through me. The shard sparkled in the dim light, reflecting stolen glimmers of hope. "Don't make me hurt you, little girl." Collins sneered, but the hesitance in his voice felt like threads beginning to fray. My heart thundered as I launched forward, one lone figure against the shadows threatening to consume us. Fear swirled with the tiniest seed of triumph, confidence rising like a phoenix from ashes. Suddenly, a blur rushed behind me. Alex pinned Collins against the wall, and before I knew what was happening, the officers burst through the door, armed and resolute. But just as I felt the tide turn, Collins' piercing laughter cut through it all. "You think this is over? You have no idea what's still to come." Before I could comprehend the gravity of his words, he vanished into a darkened corridor, leaving a lingering chill on my heart in my throat. Why did I feel that was not the end of him, but merely the prelude to a much deeper darkness? The room fell silent, a heavy blanket of uncertainty settling upon us. The police officers, armed and resolute, scanned the chaos with a mix of wariness and urgency. I trembled, caught between relief and the lingering dread that Collins hadn't just retreated, had escaped. The sight of the door swinging closed behind him haunted my thoughts, a portal through which our safety swiftly disappeared. "Are you all right?" An officer knelt beside Nanny, her frail body still resting against the floor. I rushed to her side, heart racing, desperate to see her breathe. I grasped her hand. Its grip was cool and unyielding against my palm, a stark reminder of how fragile everything felt. She's fine, Hannah's voice cracked with a hint of defiance, but I could see the worry in her eyes, her bravado unchecked, but shaky. We're fine, she echoed more to herself than anyone else. The officer turned back to the dean of the room, his brow furrowed with concern. We need to get everyone out of here. Can you walk, Mom? Not yet. My voice broke as I guided Nanny's head to rest on my lap, her eyes still closed. Nanny. Panic fluttered in my chest, a toxic mix of fear and care. The threads of our lives felt frayed beyond recognition. The officer touched his earpiece, speaking urgently into the communication device. We need medical assistance. Possible injuries, multiple civilians involved. His eyes met me, questions swirling behind them. Can you tell me exactly what happened? As I opened my mouth to speak, my words stuck, the emotional toll clawed at my throat. Colin's laughter echoed in my mind like a haunting refrain, infecting the air around us with uncertainty. He was trying to hurt us. I stammered, tears brimming. My heart felt too big for my chest, aching under the weight of anger and fear. He was going to take us apart. But we fought back. My voice faltered as the memory replayed, a mental film of chaos that left a bitter taste. That's when he got away, Alex interjected, the steel in his voice unmasked by worry. He knows we're vulnerable now. The ghost of guilt flickered in his eyes, picturing the moment that Collins had nearly landed a blow before Hannah intervened. The officer nodded, jotting down notes and backing swift commands at the others, who began to secure the perimeter. The air was thick outside. Hives of questions loomed, thoughts unformed yet electrified the moment the sirens wailed, their presence a blaring confirmation that things were far from over. Your nanny needs help, one officer said, his gaze softening as he refocused on Nanny. We'll take care of her, but we need you to step outside with us. No, I pleaded, my voice a rising tide of urgency. I can't. What if something happens? Your safety comes first, the officer replied, implacable. Please let us do our job. As he lifted Nanny into his arms, I felt the rapid tremble of trust falter against my better instincts. She was such a small figure cradled against his chest, an epilogue to years spent creating a tapestry of love around us. I reached out a last desperate attempt to anchor myself to the warmth she radiated. Please don't leave her, I whispered, the words breaking like a tender vow. We won't, he reassured me, his voice calm yet urgent. She's in good hands. But as they carried her, my eyes caught the glimmer of movement, a flicker in the shadowed hallway where Collins had disappeared moments before. Rage flared within me, casting a bright flame against the coiling shadows of despair. Wait! I shouted just as Alex grabbed my arm, his face ghostly pale. What if he comes back? The officers paused, casting cautious glances towards the hallway. Stay close. One called back, urgency wrapping around the command. I looked to Alex and Hannah, the weight of our choices pulling into a collective dread. What do we do? Hannah bit her lip, her brow furrowed deep in thought. We can't let him divide us again, push us apart. We need to stick together. Right, Alex said firmly, betrayal echoed in his eyes. But we can't stay here. He will come back. A decision formed, whispered between us like a prayer. We couldn't wait for Collins to strike, we had to take the fight to him. What if we went after him? I suggested, barely above a whisper, a dangerous idea unfurling past my lips. The disbelief in my siblings' eyes was palpable, but the echo of resolve paused in tandem. Alex moved closer, barely above a murmur. You know he's dangerous. He'll try to find a way to hurt us again. I know, I replied, the fire igniting again. But if we can draw him out, we might stand a chance. Last time we caught him by surprise, we have the police as backup now. The crisis in the room swung toward possibility, the sheer audacity of the thought was suffused with a thread of hope. But as we prepared to voice our plans to the waiting officers, the disquiet suddenly shattered into chaos. A scream thundered down the hallway, sharp, raw, and visceral. It was Nanny's voice. In a heartbeat, my words splintered like glass, and the blood rushed from my face. That sound, it wasn't a plea for help, it was a harbinger of something terrifying. Stay here, the officer ordered, but the urgency of the scream sent adrenaline crackling through me. With no time to process, I lunged forward, racing for the hallway where shadows pulled like darkened waters around me. I sensed my siblings racing at my heels, those familiar faces a tether against the encroaching fear. And just like that, into the maw of uncertainty plunged, hearts pounding with newfound resolve and a single thought echoing relentlessly: we will not back down. We will not be torn apart. But just as we rounded the corner, a vision threw us to a halt. Nanny, standing, trembling on unsteady legs, a shattering lightness in her eyes. And in her hands an unexpected, dreadful intimate photograph, cradled like a fragile secret, a truth ripe and ready to change everything. "Run," she breathed, her voice frail yet assertive, sending shards of trepidation through the very air we breathed. My heart plummeted. What had Collins truly unleashed? We were standing at the precipice of something darker than our fears, and the dawning reality clawed at my insides as the truth started to unravel. This was only the beginning. The tension in the air crackled like a live wire as I stood paralyzed in front of Nanny, a mix of confusion and fear surging over me. There she was, trembling but resolute, still clutching that photograph like a talisman. My heart raced, and every instinct screamed for clarity. What had Collins done? What truth awaited us, hidden among the remnants of memories we had buried deep? "Nanny, please," I urged, taking a cautious step closer. "What's going on?" The photograph glimmered in her hands, but her spirit seemed to dim under its weight, an emotional mantle that felt far too heavy to bear. "He's coming," she whispered, her voice cracking like thin ice beneath the weight of truths left unspoken. "He knows about the photograph, the secrets we kept hidden. It's time you all knew the truth." Each word was a slow release of air, heavy with the gravity of years spent wrestling with shadows, voicing unacknowledged fears. I felt Alex step closer, discomfort shaping his features. "What do you mean? What secrets?" The world around us felt like it was tilting on its axis, our lives swimming dangerously close to the edge of a precipice. I reached for Nanny's hand, squeezing it softly in an attempt to offer comfort as much as to seek it. She took a shaky breath, the light beginning to flicker back into her eyes. "Collins didn't just threaten us, wanted to erase our family, to sever the bonds we forged so willingly. But look at what he leaves behind." Her words trailed off as she motioned towards the photograph, lifting it to eye level for us to see. The image was old, faded at the edges, a family portrait taken years ago, a snapshot of a moment in time when love and laughter filled the air, unmarred by the dark clouds that would soon gather over us. I recognized the faces: Nanny as a young woman, vibrant and joyful, my mother, her sister, both holding their younger sibling, Alex, alongside traces of familiar smiles. But there was a man standing alongside them, different. A man whose face I barely remember, a man who didn't belong between those joyous smiles. "That's Mr. Collins," I breathed, my chest tightening. "But why would he want to come back? What does he have to gain?" Nanny lowered the photograph, her hands trembling. "He wants to collect debts, my loves. He thrives on chaos, he feeds off fear. And our family has been his favorite prey. This photograph is a reminder of the bonds we forged before he tore us apart. We were stronger together, and he knew it." As realization dawned, a surge of rage blazed within me. It wasn't just the mere existence of the past that Collins held over us, it was the fear of being fractured again, of losing the very thing we had fought so hard to reclaim. We had always been a family, but the power of that bond, the love that connected us, had been vulnerable to his grasp. Before I could voice my thoughts, Alex stepped forward, the anger in his eyes a fierce storm awaiting to break. "Then we can't let him take this from us again. This time, we can stand together and fight together." A sense of unity ignited between us, sparking hope amidst the lingering shadows that had once consumed us. I clasped my hand around Nanny's, the warmth and love seeping into my soul like a reprieve I thought unattainable just moments ago. We will protect each other, we will confront him, together. We need to remind him that family is not a weakness. Nanny's eyes brimmed with tears, this simple vow resonating profoundly against the backdrop of her fears. Yes, that is the only way we'll win. There was a strength in her voice, something I hadn't heard in a long time, and for the first time in this endless fight against Collins, I believed her. Just then, a heavy knock echoed through the hall, an ominous reminder of the reality looming beneath. "Open up," one of the police officers called. "We're here to ensure everyone is safe." In that moment, a current of clarity swept through me, a decision forged within our hearts, entwined forever by a bond of unwavering courage. "Stay close," I told them firmly. Together, we were no longer just fugitive survivors hiding from the shadows, we were warriors ready to fight back against the darkness that sought to engulf us. That dread we'd lived with for too long, this time, we would confront it. "Let's show him he can't break us," Hannah said, her voice electrified with resolve as we made our way toward the door. Nanny nodded, and I felt her voice strengthen as she added, "Together, we are more than the sum of our fears." As we stepped into the hallway, felt the intensity of that vow pumping through our veins, the uncertainty morphed into a promise. Each face was lit with determination, an implicit understanding that we would hold each other close no matter how tumultuous the storm ahead may become. And then we stood there, the door swung open to reveal the burst of lights from the officers flanking the entryway. They breathed life into our surroundings, the reassurance a bomb soothed the remnants of our frayed nerves. Nanny stepped forward, illuminating our family with grace, the warmth of her spirit radiating like an ancient flame, beckoning us all forward into unity. As we faced the place we once called home, it felt like reclaiming lost patches of our own history, bleeding together the joys and failures into a tapestry worth fighting for. "It's time to make our truth known," I declared, fire igniting passion in my tone. We walked forward as a unit, hearts intertwined beneath the weight of burdens shattered in many ways yet refusing to falter. We were finally ready to confront all that Collins had done, every dark deed that had left scars on our family. And just as I took a step through the doorway, the tendrils of uncertainty receding, I felt the promise of something else altogether blooming within us: resilience, hope, and the knowledge that no longer would we walk in shadows but instead illuminate our journey, striding towards a brighter horizon. The fight was just beginning, and as long as we had each other, we would write our own ending filled with love, defiance, and strength. Love would guide us through the darkness, and together, we would forge a path into the light. I turned back one last time, feeling Nanny's hand in mine, a slender link holding the past to what we were about to become. And then, I whispered the words I had struggled against for so long, now bursting forth with the vitality of the future before me: "No matter what he takes away, he will never break us. We are family." As I let my voice carry that promise into the world, I finally understood its full weight. Love is the most resilient force, an unbreakable bond that even the darkest adversaries cannot dissolve, and with that truth in my heart, I stepped forward into our new dawn. Together. No longer afraid. Just unwavering.